So I recently saw some video of people taking apart broken electronics units for scavenging the parts out of them, and some of the video was left you with some questions, and some of the videos kind of a little scary the way they did things. But I thought I'd show you some of the things that I do as far as taking a board or whatever and salvaging some of the parts out of it. So here's a nice little board we can work with. This is off of a little remote control helicopter that didn't work too well. You can see there's some caps, some LEDs, some switches, kind of cheesy, probably wouldn't want those. Some buttons here, those are not too bad to keep. Some infrared, some resistors, an IC here. Apparently they didn't want you to know what it was because there's indicator, the labeling's all been removed, so we don't even know what that is. So let's go ahead and see how we can get some of these parts off of here. So let's go over a couple of things you can use to unsolder a part from a board. One thing I don't have, I guess I'll go with first, is solder, or is it desoldering wick. It's kind of like a fine braid of wire, and use that to heat the board, and you put it on and you heat it up with the soldering iron, and it kind of sucks the solder off the board. I never really cared for that one. Didn't seem to work all that great for me, but I like the solder sucker. Works a little better. Get the pad to melt, suck the solder off the board. I also have this little bulb suction device, which I take this off and replace on here like that, and then use that to get it hot and then suck it right off. This works really good, especially for dual-sided boards where the solder's on both sides. It's a little harder to get it with this. This is a lot better for that. So the first thing I'd probably do with this board is these wires, really nothing fancy. You could probably rip them off like that. Pretty thin wire, pretty small. If you can't get it, just cut them just to get them out of your way. This piece we can keep for later. It's got the IRs on it, and this cable here is pretty much nothing. These are trash, and we can go from there. Guess I can cover another way to desolder something. Remove it from the board. It's kind of like how I do capacitors or these LEDs here. You should be able to locate their pads underneath. Grab your iron and find out where the pads are. Heat your pad and kind of tilt it one way. Heat the other pad and go the other way. And then heat the other pad. Eventually you can kind of work it up, and there's your LED. A little bit of back and forth. It's pretty quick. And you can do the same thing with capacitors. Find a capacitor here, like this guy right here, and find its legs, or its pads. So right here. Kind of just push it one way. You can see it's probably can't tell, it's a little tilted that way. Bring it back the other, and actually it's already out. It's a pretty quick way to do it. Okay, so I wanted to show you the solder sucker method here. This guy, he's a little beat up, fed him for a while, but we'll see what he does. I don't have a holder. A lot of people use those bases. I think they're heavy bases with the little vise on it to hold their boards. I don't have one of those. This board doesn't sit very flat. It's kind of hard to deal with. These switches on here, so I'm going to remove those, and then hopefully this will let me sit flat to do the sucker part. Okay, now that I got the board sitting a lot flatter, not perfect, but let's try to get rid of, let's try to remove this resistor right here. You can see his pads right there. Let's just see if we can get this to come up here. Like I say, it might not be the most stable platform here, but get it to melt. hit the button. Next pad, melt. Hit the button. Should be pretty good. Yep, there it goes. Sometimes you'll have one side maybe touching, still the pad still soldered, and you can just take your fingernail or something and just break it free, and it'll pop it right off that last piece. Be careful doing that kind of thing if it's a board you're working on. You don't want to push the pad. You don't want to push the leg off or try to force the leg off the pad and have the pad tear off the board. Then you have to be repairing the board, and that's kind of a pain. Obviously it can be done, but you don't want to have to deal with extra stuff if you don't need to. So that's the solder sucker plunger method. Next I'll hook up the this guy, the bulb, and we'll see how that works. Actually, I think I'll even show you how I changed the bulb out. Changed to the bulb. Instead of shutting it down and letting it cool, which, you know, would probably be the safest way, but you can take these pliers here. And this is a welder, an old military welder station I got at a DRMO a while back. It's temperature controlled, so you change the tips, and that's how you also change the bulb. So I just use a pair of needle nose, get this to come off, put this down here on the metal case, take the tip off. You can take this, kind of like that, and it's got a little bit of a springy action to it, so you kind of got to push down a little bit to tighten it. This way you don't have to wait for the iron to cool down, and all we have to do is wait for this to heat up. Saves us a little bit of time. While I'm waiting for this to heat up still, I wanted to go over something here. One of the questions I had after watching one of the videos was the fact that the item was broken and you're removing parts to keep. The question is, how do you know which part was broken? Probably be a good idea to separate parts you're taking off of things compared to new parts in your bin, so that you know you might have a problem with parts you're pulling. Alright, so this is hot now, and we can take a part off here. Let's see which one we want to do. Let's try this transistor right here, see what happens. So what you do is just push this little bulb in and find your part right here. Kind of heat up the pad, get the solder out. Next one, heat up the pad, get the solder out, push the button each time before you go down in there. Heat the pad up, pull the solder out. Now you should be able to, hopefully, this guy out. See, here's one of these situations where there's a little bit of solder on this one still. Then I just broke it free like that. And you should be able to pull it out. And here's another little tip. If you're repairing something and you happen to know this transistor is bad, obviously you could just throw it away, or at least so that nobody else or yourself uses this again, go ahead and take a pair of clippers and clip off one of the legs really short, so you know that, hey, that's kind of an indication that nobody should use that again. Sometimes you like to leave parts around just so you can see what they were that you replaced or whatever, so it'd be a good idea to make sure that you have some indication that you don't want to use that again. So it's a good way to do it. So that's pretty much just some quick tips on or info on how I do things. You're probably wondering at the beginning, what was the video that left you, or that seemed scary? Well, those are good ways to remove parts from boards. I don't want you to be the guy that does this thing. That's not the way to do it. A little dangerous. You don't want to start anything on fire. Basically what you do is you can hold a board with a pair of pliers or something, heat it up, shake the parts off. I think I tried that once, twice, maybe a long time ago. I just did. I don't think it's the right way to go. So I would stick with these methods, and because another thing is you don't want to put too much heat on parts if you're trying to keep them. You know, ICs and stuff can get damaged. So sitting there with a torch, seems to me like that could be a lot more heat. Not 100% sure on the differences in heat between you keeping a soldering iron on and a torch, but torch just seems a little crazy to me. So anyway, all right.